or the Rust Revive, whatever it may be in terms of tech cards. As it's a little bit expensive, but at the same time, the real benefit of Guild Trader is that you can actually stick it for a turn and get multiple instances of spell damage. And against a very unreactive deck like the Miracle Priest for Lambie series, who knows, maybe we could even see a more proactive game plan with the spell damage from Oka Shinsuke, even if that does make for a very high-risk, high-reward gameplay. It's the kind of thing you need to do to be able to take down like 12 health minions in the mid-game.
Well, mulligan for Lambie, pretty simple. Palm reading the individual, just highest win rate mulligan card for the deck because it activates so much of what you're trying to do with the combo. And then the Horn of Rathian itself can tutor out a Nazmani if Lambie is lucky. Oka Shinsuke here actually keeps the double jump into Chaos Strike opener, which I suppose lends itself towards early quest completion or progression, but I gotta say I wasn't expecting Chaos Strike as a keep.
Yeah, it feels a little bit not. It doesn't progress the quest especially well because 2 mana is very expensive to draw just 1 card in the early game. And even though it can help to deal with a Nazmani Bloodweaver in the early game, there's cards I'd rather find, like Fury is going to do a better job of that. Obviously, the best one to find is the Fel Barrage most of the time, and even a Immolation Aura does the same amount of damage for the same mana cost to one of these early minions. And without Sethic Veilweavers in the game, I do agree Chaos Strike is a little bit, I don't know, pessimistic.
Huge top deck for Lambie in the Thrive. I thought mainly to find Insight, which you could then corrupt with Palm Reading, but finding just another Palm Reading too is absolutely insane given that he has a 2 and 3 to find a Nazmani with this Horn of Rathian. As for Oka Shinsuke's turn, just gonna spend it equipping the Eldraki Warblades. Keeping the double jump, I did not question whatsoever because that is a chance at Glide, and that is the card that can completely wreck the plans of the Miracle Priest if they are getting a bit too greedy with their timing.
Okay, full mana Nazmani Bloodweaver there is obviously what you're looking for. Desperate Prayer to play around the Glide. Okay, he's playing some credence to it at least, which I can respect. Given that everything is going to get discounted anyway by the palm readings, like it's still nice to have a Desperate Prayer, but I think his concern here isn't having enough fuel to discount all his big cards. It's actually finding cards to be worth discounting. So getting rid of this and then playing around Glide a little bit, I think still sets up for double palm readings to get him a, hopefully, an Elec Mount, a Draconic Studies, something of that ilk to pop off with the Nazmani.
Right. But it's getting scary for Lambie. He saw the double keep, right? These 2 cards on the left. He still thinks, well, we already clearly saw that he very much had Glide on his mind for this leftmost one. He's going to see that Oka Shinsuke doesn't commit it, so then Lambie will ask himself, okay, so if it's the second card that is the Glide, then it's most likely not playable on the next turn unless Oka Shinsuke kept a 1-cost card to go alongside it. And that is similar to the pan out that we are likely to actually see, which is double jump next turn into Glide. But it's not especially likely right now. Both the Spectral Sights still in the deck, so just a 50-50. And right now, Oka Shinsuke is actually playing down the Guild Trader that you highlighted last turn as a tempo minion, and that is going to help him to get rid of this Nazmani if he just picks up a little bit more damage.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, a Fel Barrage off the top, even a Fel Barrage off the Spectral Sight would be able to clear off this big Nazmani. I guess the downside is that Lambie series can just go for Shard of the Naru, but honestly, if they're going for like Coin Shard in this instance when there's only 1 Nazmani on the board, it's not that bad. You're getting them to use a pretty inefficient piece when quite clearly here, Lambie series, his pop-off is ending pretty prematurely.
That's right. He is just paying so much credence to the Glide, like you said, and because of that, oh! Fel Barrage off the top! You can see the fist bump from Oka Shinsuke. Lambie was hoping that there wouldn't be any additional damage. Like, he was staring at the 3 face up plus the 3 you could see from weapon and hero power. And he said, okay, if there's Fel Barrage, that punishes me. Anything else, most likely my Nazmani can survive and he can go again. But we see that is simply not the case here. Oka Shinsuke doesn't even need to Glide from this point because Lambie is very much gassed out. The Amulet of Undying, honestly, I didn't expect him to pick because there's currently no Death Rattle minions. He might generate one later on from Draconic Studies or something, but I was looking more at Auspicious Spirits just to have some additional guaranteed minion playable.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally nothing more than a tradable effect right here for him.
Okashinsky.
Wow,
What happened?
Magtheridon.
Okay, I don't know if he was stressing out a little bit, but I was wondering if he thought he miscounted mana or something, but it still works out here because he would still have to commit the Guild Trader trade no matter what, even if he got hero power added to his turn as well. So, man, I would love to see Okashinsky calm down a little bit, but at the same time, really happy that it so visibly means this much to him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is all spot on for him. There was the temptation to hold on to the double jump to guarantee Outcast Glide, or make it more likely at least to Outcast Glide in the next couple turns. But yeah, I think he's going to quite quickly realize he doesn't want to do that. His opponent's hand is probably just pretty bad here. Unless he's got exactly Malygos discounted in hand, ready to go to draw the deck, he has absolutely nothing to be afraid of. And so completing the quest, playing the double jump, glide in non-outcast position, I think for him here is honestly fine. Now that he's in the second palm readings, it's a little scarier because he knows whatever is in hand is pretty cheap now for Lambie series. But at the same time, again, as long as it's not Malygos, it doesn't matter how cheap it is because it's not going to get there.
He could ask himself, what does second Nazmani plus Gift of Luminance do on the next turn? And most of the time, the train would end quickly because there's so few cards in hand. But let's say one of them is a renew into a cheaper spell. Maybe Okashinsky is scared of that in particular, so he is still going to outcast the Glide. Interestingly, also, last turn, Lambie had the option to pick a Rally as well, which in this deck, of course, only summons back a Nazmani, but chose Psyche Split instead, which is perhaps the more optimistic option, because if you have a Nazmani already, Psyche Split is a lot better than just rezzing one. So in a position where he's this far behind, I don't mind him taking the greedier option.
Insight snapped up there for Lambie series. I like a lot. Gives him, I think, guaranteed Malygos at this point, right, with the other Nazmani in hand. It's very awkward as to how he should play this, though, because next turn he still, unfortunately, can't go Nazmani plus Psych Split. So he could just look to play Insight like uncorrupted just to get a Malygos in hand, or maybe go Nazmani Insight just to like draw Malygos and hope that having a handful of spells is enough to win the game even without Nazmani effects.
Yeah, that's a very real win condition because the 12 health on Malygos is just so hard to remove for Demon Hunter, and Lambie has seen a Glide. We'll see how he approaches it though, because for now Okashinsky is making a lot of headway towards completing the quest. These options, not particularly good, but maybe he takes a Skull, given that he has another Glide in hand. He can shuffle a pretty good card to top deck back into the deck.
Okay, interesting. I guess the fact that the left-hand side of his hand is very dumpable does incentivize him to hold on to the Glide a little bit longer, wait for that Malygos that he knows Lambie series is going to be digging towards as greedily as possible.
Purchase all set up for next turn to punish the fact that Lambie will not have a big development this turn. He honestly has the option to create a 7/7 Nazmani just to disincentivize Purchase a little bit. But as it happens, we can see Okashinsky with this discount on the Fel Barrage can actually still go Purchase Fel Barrage, swing with hero power, and that would clear the blessed up Nazmani as well.
Oh, that's unfortunate. He really wanted to get this discount on the Malygos, really just to make it as cheap as possible. Okay, there you go. At least makes it a little bit easier to play Malygos plus something else on the following turn. Maybe Malygos Bless, something of that caliber. But now for Okashinsky, with the Magtheridon picked up as well, I think, honestly, you can just leave this Nazmani Bloodweaver. It can be killed on this turn, I guess, with like Fel Barrage Fury is fine alongside the Kurtrus, and then you still have the Magtheridon clear. Sure, why not? You have all your bases covered.
Absolutely. I think the Nazmani should be cleared because you know there's a Malagos coming, right? There could be so many different extra spells played that were freshly drawn from the Malagos if you leave that. So Fel Barrage, Kurtrus, Hero Power Swing is going to get the job done. He's going to see what's in the Spectral first. Very clean from Okashinsuke. All the order looking very much on point here. Counting the mana to make sure everything is optimized in its expenditure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just trying to figure out, like, if he goes double jump into Spectral Sight into, Talented Arcanist, then maybe he could not have to even hit the minion at all. He could just go Fel Barrage, something like that. But here with just a big swing to gain back all his health afterwards, this is perfectly fine. Still got almost guaranteed Magtheridon clear on the following turn for if something goes disastrously wrong. And outside of that, he's just getting towards his lethal combo. It's going to be there very soon.
Not great ones. I guess Deathwing is a panic switch for Lambie. I was wondering why Okashinsuke was so willing to part with the Furies just to hold on to Fel Barrage, but looking at this Magtheridon, maybe that's his plan. Magtheridon, Immo, Fel Barrage deals with 2 tokens immediately, and if he sticks the Kurtrus, he could wake it up on the very next turn if need be. Okay, last studies. Mage Scribe, probably. Yeah. He needs more value than this. Even though the hand is full, it just doesn't quite do enough. And the Call of the Undead has no synergy with his deck so far.
Yeah, it's essentially completely dead. Like, we're looking at some potential combos where you can go Onyx, Mage Scribe, Call of the Grave, Amulet of the Dead. Like, some really convoluted combo, at which point you'd already be long dead, thanks to the Kurtrus OTK with the Felfire Deadeye and the Expendable Performers. But now for Okashinsuke, how are we maximizing his chances of closing out the game? Because that Glide in hand, you really want to use it on this turn, I think, just to clear off some of the Malagos, lower its health a little bit, and also shuffle most of those spells back in, whilst also unlocking your combo with the Deadeye and the Expendables.
Like he's cycling to, okay, find the Arcanist, that's the big one. That will make the Malagos clear a lot simpler. I think he'll still have to expend the Immolation at the end of it, and the trade of the Kurtrus. Because Arcanist with the Fel Barrage is going to deal 8. Trade in, that's 15 total, and then it's going to be a 7-1. Just as long as he clears it, he's completely fine. And then you glide at the end. Maybe you can equip the weapon before gliding. Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, I agree with all of it. Honestly, play the Rustro Viper. Yeah, like, it's a little bit scary because I guess you're giving them a bigger target for a Psyche split, but when they only have 4 cards in hand, what could they possibly do with, like, I don't know, what, a 4/6 minion on the other side? There's absolutely nothing you're afraid of. And then Expendables in hand, only 3 cards left in deck. It's always getting there.
Okay, all things considered for a post-glide hand, this is above average, I would say. The Amulet of the Undying would have been pretty bad. These are all copy spells that rely on there being a minion on board, so I think Lambie should just accept that he has to buff one of Okashinsuke's minions and try to build a board himself. Alternatively, he could hold on until he redraws his Deathwing, the Destructor, because that might be his only realistic win condition. That's really the only minion left in the deck. Oh, and the Mage Scribe, I suppose.
Just trying to map out any possible series of draws for Okashinsuke that don't let him win. Like, I don't even know how you could stack the draws so that, like, what his bottom card, his second bottom card is, to the point where he isn't able to beat you in just 2 turns' time.
Kurtrus off the top is the best outcome for Okashinsuke because he can put the clock on Lambie here, right? Because when Miracle Priest gets in this situation, similar to what we saw with Okashinsuke versus Possessi a while ago, the Priest's only real way back into the game is to try and remove all of the threats and fatigue. But that's such a tall order when, one, Lambie doesn't have any removal left and he's going to be stared down with bats this turn. There's still a Jace that can provide so much burst for Okashinsuke, and Lambie has 11 cards in deck with a slim chance of finding Deathwing only.
I grow impatient.
Shinsuke's counting something. I guess it's whether or not he could set up a lethal on the next turn if he top decks Felfire Deadeye, assuming this board gets cleared, because he would have access to playing Magtheridon and then the combo.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like whether or not if he played Jace, it would guarantee it next turn because he'd do some extra damage and then draw more cards, so he would be guaranteed to have the full combo of Magtheridon, Performers plus the Deadeye. But I guess he's just come to the conclusion that that's not even necessary. It should be able to get there no matter what. Like, Jace alone will probably be lethal next turn.
Or the board, because Lambie can't deal with it.
Double psych split? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, these have rush at least, but man, is it ugly. He has to, though. I mean, I think he knows he's dead 100%.
Yes.
Bottom deck Jace, does that do anything for him? I don't know. Yeah, this is just gonna be an easy lethal for Oka Shinsuke. I believe going Felscream Blast into Jace would guarantee it, but maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, hero power attack, hero power attack, hero power Jace. That will win you the game.
My hunt goes on.
Yeah, and he's just gonna trade off the Arcanist into the 7/1 as well to give himself the most damage from Fel Barrage going face possible.
Makes sense.
Seems good. And that's gonna be game 1 in the books. Miracle Priest takes another L. Feels like that's the only result it's been getting recently, Dark.
No, I'm right there with you, Gia. It just cannot seem to get a win. It's lost, 3 times in the previous series. Earlier days, it was looking slightly better. Like, it pulled a ban from Hyung against Possessi. And then, I don't know, Oka Shinsuke was able to beat Bank Yugi with it. But that's only because he was playing against blooming Quest Shaman, which doesn't even count in terms of a deck. So yeah, it's going to be, again, I think the Achilles heel for both players here. Just trying to get a win with the Priest will be the most important factor. But the Demon Hunter over the finish line for Oka Shinsuke, big deal. Expected to happen, honestly. I think it had maybe not the best matchup against Priest, but a good matchup against Priest. Getting the win with that is important. Shaman is another good matchup, I think, for the Demon Hunter. And so Lambesery is now deviating over to his own Demon Hunter, I believe, to try and get a better matchup against Oka Shinsuke. And given that Oka Shinsuke could go for the one of the two shared decks in the Demon Hunter or the Priest or the Weapon Rogue, I'm curious to know which he's going to try and sneak a win with in first, because that Weapon Rogue should, I think, still be in a good spot in this matchup. It's got itself not too aggressive decks that it's up against. That has been what's led Rogue to be the second most banned class this weekend overall. However, the text for Lambesery, I think, might be able to keep him in the running against the Rogue, with Rostrot Viper in the Demon Hunter, Rostrot Viper in the Shaman, of course the Wildboar Caverns in the Shaman, particularly to freeze that dagger and force Oka Shinsuke to play for board in a way that he doesn't want to. I want to call Oka Shinsuke still the favorite because, as you said, that Weapon Rogue does pull him into the lead, but Lambesery has built his lineup in a way where he definitely has a fighting chance against that one.
Yes, indeed, the Viper text just very heads up, knowing that this was a real possibility. Weapon Rogue's popularity is being somewhat rejuvenated ever since Lovestorm won the Masters Tour. Although I do expect that maybe next week, moving forward, we could see more people following Gur's train of thought with the pirate version of the Weapon Rogue Mr. Smite and the Bloodsail Raiders in there. It feels like that version can get a little bit of board presence if need be, and are less reliant on the weapon actually being able to attack. Like, you have more utility even if you're frozen. Although both those decks still fall victim to weapon destruction. So Lambie for sure gonna have an eye on this Viper. The rest of the deck looking very standard indeed. I guess the one change he's made from the list I'm most used to seeing is double jump instead of double Chaos Strike.
Which I'm actually a fan of. Like, it was a real learning journey I went on with this Demon Hunter, because at first I was very much of the idea that, okay, this leans more into the Fel half of things than the Quest half of things, because it's very different to OTK Demon Hunter that ran the Tusk Piercers and the Sigil of Alacrities, that very often went Quest on 3, Quest on 4, Quest on 5, Kurtrus. That was the game plan 99 times out of 100, if you had the hand that allowed it. But this version doesn't complete quest on turn 3 most of the time. It sometimes doesn't even do it on turn 4. But because you have that guarantee to go Spectral Sight or Glide off of your double jump, it means that turns 5 onwards, you can complete quest every turn very easily, especially with the need for greed slotted in there as well. And I think double jump really just doubles down on that portion of the deck very, very nicely and allows you to catch up from those early game turns that you're missing out compared to OTK Demon Hunter. And so even though you're missing out on some damage, maybe have a less aggressive game plan overall, I really like Lambie Series' strategy because it just still focuses on that quest that I think some lists are a little bit lacking in.
Taking a look at the Weapon Rogue on the other side for Oka Shinsuke. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. Also one Rust Rod Viper in there, heeding the potential mirrors or any paladins that might be lying around still. There's also the one of SI7 Extortion. That's a card that I see in and out here, depending on whether you prefer the Cutlass as 2 copies, but it's really just nitpicking, right? All the tradables are there mainly to cycle through the deck, and the core of it is just finding the Swine Tusk Shank in a timely fashion.
Okay, Cutlass starting hand, you're never going to be turning your nose up at that, but still needs a little bit extra. Some card draw, or of course the Shank to really round out this hand. Whereas for Lambie Series, I'm thinking with very little minions to remove, we're looking for quest completion, even though, as I said, it takes a little bit longer. And
Ooh.
that hissy boy right there, the Rust Rot Viper to just take apart Oka Shinsuke's game plan. It's still going to be interesting to see how Lambie Series goes for it, whether you let them play a bunch of poisons and then destroy it, or just kill it as soon as possible. But either way, a great spot to be in.
Oka Shinsuke choosing to hold on to the Cutlass. He's of the school of thought that, well, Weapon Rogue has nothing else to do on turn 1, so take the tradable and very likely a discount on a spell. But it's always sad whenever you see the rest of the hand and there's no Shank just yet. The Viper for Oka Shinsuke may or may not get some utility too to deal with Eldraki Warblades, because Demon Hunter oftentimes puts himself in a position where they need to heal back up a lot, because even if they have Viper for the first Shank, there might be second Shank, there might even just be dagger damage with enough poisons that gets them feeling a bit scared. So I wonder if Oka Shinsuke will have the Viper as a low priority on the tradable list.
Okay, Tempo Deadeye, yeah, absolutely. Against the Weapon Rogue, you're never going to be going for the full combo later on. They never play enough minions to even get there. So I am fully on board with Lambie, turning up the pressure a little bit, getting that damage online as soon as possible. Oka Shinsuke's hand coming together a little bit more. The discount on the Secret Passage allowing him to go for it right now, I think very, very happily. And like you say, find that weapon as quick as he possibly can.
Very fortunate outcome from the Cutlass trade. But let's see if he's fortunate enough to find the Shank. There it is at the end. Oh my goodness. The deck really keeping us on edge there, and Oka Shinsuke himself as well. Even can prep the poison, get rid of the Deadeye, but Lambie has the Viper. So Oka Shinsuke needs to find second Shank in the near future.
Yeah, Oka Shinsuke, I think, if my Japanese is good enough, praying there, no Rust Rot Viper. Can you confirm, Gia?
You don't have to speak Japanese for that. You just have to recognize that emoji, you know? Oh, and Lambie waits as well. I mean,
the slow roll. Oof.
You could technically wait until they commit more poisons to it, because this Spectral Sight is not going to be in outcast position for quite some time, right? It's locked in by the Kurtrus, and the Viper this turn. Okay, there we can see it here. I was going to say has met merits aside from removing the weapon, just because when we saw the weapon rogue mirror the other day, just the first person, Oka Shinsuke, to play down the 3-4, beat down the other weapon rogue because they just didn't have removal. They weren't playing prize plunder or anything like that. So Lambie getting some pressure online for himself as a bonus is also really good.
I do absolutely agree that in addition to the body itself and destroying the weapon, although you can bait out more poisons, the thing that tips the scales for me is cutting class. You just don't want to let them get that cheap card draw, find that other weapon in a timely fashion. You want to make it unplayable on this turn, force them to have a weak play. At absolute best, they're going to top deck the other shank off the top. But outside of that, their hand is almost always entirely dead. Which means that now the best for Oka Shinsuke is like Cutlass plus Swindle just to combo it, and then maybe you can go Deadly Poison next turn to kill off the Viper and stop that damage coming in every turn.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the Cutlass Swindle definitely happening. But, oh, okay, he's going for the kill now. I was saying if you're gonna wait until the next turn to remove the Viper, you might just start sending damage face instead. You pretend that Eldraki is not a card. But Oka Shinsuke takes it one step further, removes the Viper right now to give himself more time. And this, I think, is a very disciplined line, but it still involves him needing to get some very fortunate draws.
Lambie Series, interestingly enough here, with the ability to not outcast this glide if he wants to, with going Illidari Studies Coin Glide instead. Now that there's the Spectral Sight instead, though, I was wondering if you go for that instead.
Yeah, I think gliding is not necessarily a priority here for Lambie Series because he has Coin Kerchus, which is a really good play for the next turn. It's his best board development he can get. He gets the better hero power immediately. Like, Kerchus is one of the hero cards that doesn't change your hero power, it just strictly upgrades it, like compared to, say, Guff, where sometimes in some worlds you wish you had the 1 damage, 1 armor.
I've heard tell. It can be possible. Overall, though, I do slightly disagree with this line from Lambie Series. Like, having another glide in hand versus having just completed quest level 1 on this turn, I think is definitely not worth it. And so I would rather have seen the Spectral Sight, unless he's got something masterful up his sleeve that he's planning to do with this banked mana from the Illidari Studies. Because now he's just a turn slower behind. I think he still really wants to go Coin Kerchus wherever possible, and this, I think, by not completing the quest, just slows him down unnecessarily.
Yeah, I think that's fair criticism, but he's still very much in the lead. The bat's gonna be summoned. Oka Shinsuke running out of time to find another shank here, and is very much lacking the damage to pull through at the end. Like, he has the Wicked Stabs, he has the Garots, but the difference compared to the version Gur was running is you cannot speed up the combo because you don't have Octobots. Passage?
Right.
Cutting class, and then honestly, Oka Shinsuke's out might be just playing Shadowcrafter Scabs on 8 and hoping that the 4-2s can go face. It just doesn't feel like the weapon damage is realistic at this point.
In which case, you could start by, like, trading the Viper, or I guess if you're going for that plan, you could just go for clearing the board along the way. You know, like you say, once you get Scabs online, you can do close to a 30 damage combo, even ignoring the weapon damage, just because you have the possibility to go for the Garrot combos with the Guild Trader as well. But that's not going to be available quite yet, especially given that there's still no shank available. Oka Shinsuke just going to straight up equip the other Cutlass as the poisons, sorry, more so than the weapons, are just slowly being chewed through. The shank getting worse and worse with every passing turn.
Yeah, Oka Shinsuke clearly has switched gears to that Guild Trader Garrot inevitability that we were talking about. It does get faster a little bit if you have Scabs, but man, Lambie Series is not going to give Oka Shinsuke that time, right? You did make a very valid point in that the Kerchus quest reward being slowed down is a big deal because it's a turn where Oka Shinsuke doesn't have to deal with minion pressure. And without Jason hand to promise even more burst potential, it's not as though Lambie can ever get damage from the expendable combo. Weapon Rogue will simply not play minions in that situation. Yeah, he will have to put the timer on Oka Shinsuke a bit more effectively, which the quest reward does better than any other card.
It's actually an unbelievable amount of card draw available to Lambi Series should he want it, with 3 glides and like 3 spectral sights having been played as well. But in the end, he goes with the Gnar Glavesmith. I was thinking because it might allow him to beef up the damage with the Eldraki Warblades. But in the end, he's just going aggro. And actually, I think this is really heads up. It's applying that pressure. It's a 3-1 on board, which has to be tanked without a paralytic poison on the weapon, which just means it's getting closer and closer to finding some scammy lethal with Jace.
True. And an important thing to note is that if Oka Shinsuke wants to guarantee the Garrote damage, all coming one after another, you may not have heard, but there was a patch actually to tradables and the order in which they draw cards from the deck after you've shuffled bleeds in. For example, your deck is 6 bleeds and you trade away a Cutlass, say. There is a chance that you draw the Cutlass in the middle of that. And so to offset the chance of that happening, Oka Shinsuke ideally would like to save all the remaining charges, or 1 remaining charge on this Cutlass with the Silverleaf Poison equipped to make sure that he can draw all bleeds consecutively with Guild Trader. But that problem is still quite some time away because the Guild Trader Garrote combo is only 24. He still has Wicked Stab and Sinister Strike, which can get some additional reach, but the more pressing problem is just surviving in the meantime.
Oh, and he just has nothing at all. No card draw, no scabs, no setup even. Like, he's just having to go Wicked Stab rank 2 face that doesn't even chip off all the armor. He can't play any more poisons because I think he is going to need them on the Shank, as weak as it will be at this point. And it just puts him in a truly miserable situation, whereas Lambi Series can quite happily go for quest completion here. I guess, honestly, alongside a glide in outcast position, like, even if your opponent's hand is clearly bad, they have 6 cards in hand and you could put them down to 4.
Right, and this has been leading up to turn 8, right? I think Lambi was thinking there's gotta be a Scabs in there, and Oka Shinsuke was just waiting and waiting and waiting to play it. Let's put it back in the deck, but we'll see if Oka Shinsuke can get lucky off of the draws post-glide. He does not, though. This is looking terrible if he doesn't get that crucial Scabs off the top. Meanwhile, he's just dying!
He's just mega dying. It's getting to the point where, honestly, Cloak of Shadows won't necessarily keep him alive. At 8 health, a double Fel Barrage Jace or a Fel Barrage plus Talented Arcanist will just end the game.
Gabs, one last try. Oh, Eldraki can be chewed up. That's something. It's also a target that is lower health than 8 and can
That's true.
sometimes soak the Fel Barrage. But it's also a tradable and 1 more potential shot at Scabs the next turn. It's so close, I don't know. Oka Shinsuke decides to hold on the Viper. Lambi Series is praying for the Jace.
I don't think he has the Fel Barrages in there yet. It's still 2 unplayed. So
True.
I think it's either double Barrage or Arcanist plus Fel Barrage. There's the Talented Arcanist. And that is not a Fel Barrage. So Oka Shinsuke gets to see 1 more turn at least.
But there is at least quest completion for Lambi here with the double jump. It will most likely put a glide in a weird position, but I just don't think he's very concerned about gliding at this point. It really is just finding that lethal. Oka Shinsuke 2 draws effectively next turn with the tradable. Can he find the Scabs to stay alive?
I don't even know what Scabs does at this point. Like, it has to still be GG. I guess. Like, it might keep him alive just for another turn. But if he's not stealthing up, the weapon gets to go face again at that point. He could go like Scabs, Hero Power, Viper. But even that's not there. He has to just either trade the Viper or go Cloak. And honestly, at this point, he has to realize that Lambi Series is getting so close to just finding the Fel Barrage lethal.
Oh, it's a disaster for Oka Shinsuke. After that first Shank got chewed up by the Viper, Oka Shinsuke has just been struggling to stay afloat. doing everything he can, commits the poisons onto the dagger, praying that he is not dead, but it is so unlikely that he can stay alive from this point, even with a cloak. Surely he
He
will
has to
cloak
play
though.
the cloak. Yeah.
And is he just not going to trade the Guild Trader because he's just hoping to go Guild Trader Garrot and draw all of them with 5 cards still in the deck that are not Garrots?
I respect it. I think that's honestly his best shot at this point.
Agreed. Scabs, it's going to be too late here as well because, yeah, he won't be stealthed after that. Only the minions summoned would be stealthed. Playing
Thinking about
Sinister Strike?
mana. Okay.
You still would have had the mana to play all the cards in hand for the next turn, but maybe there's room to trade another card or something, but doesn't matter. There's the Fel Barrage off the top for Lambie, and just like that, he takes the series to a tie.
Yeah, I mean, his, what was it, a thumbs up, a number 1, I don't know, whatever hand gesture he gave us at the start of this game, he knew exactly what was up. As soon as he found the Rostrum Viper in the starting hand, he was feeling fantastic. Even that Kurtrus to go alongside it was such a difference maker, because like you said, exactly right, that upgrade of the hero power, just doubling the damage you're doing every turn, racks up so quickly, man. Even if they're killing off all your minions every turn, you're still able to just very, very cleanly get the lethal, as Lambie series did, getting them down to that Fel Barrage position. And Oka Shinsuke with the Weapon Rogue taking the loss here at the start. It's a sad one, but still hopefully leaving himself with some slightly better matchups. The Shaman I like the look of, and the Priest as well. I still, for the most part, like the look of, just because they struggle to actually kill you with their big minions. You can just hide behind your Cloak of Shadows. They don't run Rostrum Viper, and the weapon damage is usually enough to be able to get there.
Completely agreed. The lack of the Viper does make the Shaman completely reliant on getting to go face with the minions from Wildpaw Cavern. Sorry, Lambie does still have 1 copy of the Viper, so that could come in clutch as well. But I do think one or the other is not necessarily enough to beat Weapon Rogue. Like, 1 Viper and no freeze, they can still sometimes pull off a win because of Cloak of Shadows, giving them a turn to unfreeze and take no damage. However, Oka Shinsuke is moving on to the Miracle Priest instead. We are already very, very familiar with the list, only difference from Lambie's being that Oka Shinsuke only has 1 Bless and has slotted in an Elec mount still. And jury's still out as to which version is better, but most people believe that just playing 2 ofs makes a deck more consistent in one way or another, but it's just really difficult to say because the definition of consistency in Miracle Priest is also something that is different depending on the context, right? Do you want to consistently discount Malygos more than anything, or do you want to consistently be able to kill them by having 2 blesses? I have no idea. It's just such a complex deck.
It is, and we're seeing that time and time again. So many differing schools of thought on not only how the deck should be built, but how it should be played, how you should go all in, whether you should set up this 1 all-in turn, or as we're often seeing with these players, especially with Malygos in hand, you should go for a 2-turn setup, as players often do, where they discount their hand, draw the entirety of the rest of it, and just pray that Malygos sticks. But either way, in this particular mirror, it gets very, very sketchy, very, very quickly indeed, as the difference maker. I think the most important game in the series is already here for Lambie series against Oka Shinsuke. Palm reading in hand, fantastic start for Lambie series, and for Oka Shinsuke, the only one I'd consider is Thrive in the Shadows here, which I think, given that, again, you're so crucially trying to find that palm readings, I do really like that he's keeping it.
Yeah, I agree. Palm reading and insight, very good hits from the Thrive. Well, one hand is clearly better than the other here, and that's because it has palm reading, even corrupt the insight as well. However, we know that just because you're able to get the first Nazmani online doesn't mean you're way in the lead in the mirror necessarily, because both players have access to Shard of the Naru, which sort of takes the game into a potential fatigue scenario depending on what players generate.
Yeah, then it can get very, very strange, but I'm going to focus on the early game here for now before we start worrying about fatigue. And Lambie series with, wow, and Nazmani Bloodweaver off the top, that he decides to just throw down. I thought he might wait and like straight up pass a couple turns to juice this palm reading as much as possible. But I guess with a minion played, the palm reading is still getting maximum value next turn. And now for Oka Shinsuke, the questions start running through. Is this a shard of the Naru to just completely negate them, that mana cheat effect?
I mean, it's a tough question, and that's exactly the thinking behind Lambie series play, right? Okay, I know you have shard, but I'm never gonna give you the best shard ever where I play all my entire hand, you play a bunch of copies, so on and so forth. Oka Shinsuke was not taking the bait. I mean, he still could have bailed out and coined shard here, but coin, I think, is a bit too useful of a resource to use like that. Just goes for the horn himself to find his own Nazmani. 2-1's a little bit short of dealing with Nazmani on the other side, but it's not a big deal because Oka Shinsuke can try and wait for some more resources to be expended before he plays a shard.
Things getting very interesting now for Lambie series with a horn picked up. He's guaranteed both Nazmani and Malagos on this turn. In hand, sorry, should he want it. Discounted Malagos instead. It may look bad, but it's actually not the end of the world here. With it going down to 5 and then 4 mana even, it's very playable next turn.
Rue. And that's a minion that is somewhat resistant to silence in the fact that it still has 12 health on it and it's still a very threatening blessed target at any point in the game. Additional Psyche split potentially available to Oka Shinsuke here, but I wonder if he'll ever look at the Hysteria as an ace in the hole type of removal, because after the silences have been used, there's actually not that much complement to it in that, okay, you've removed the health on them, but how do you actually kill the minion? The best you can do is Shadow Word Devour a lot of the time. So maybe Hysteria could be where Oka Shinsuke's head is at.
I think I agree. Yeah, Psych Split, like, it's really tough to quantify because in these early turns, like next 1 or 2 turns, I think it's too expensive. You're not going to get value out of it. You just don't need it, to be perfectly honest. But then when we enter that kind of top-decking post-silence state, as you talked about, I'm not actually sure if Hysteria or Psych Split is better. Because like you say, if both sides use the silence and you just end up with large statted minions with no extra effect, maybe you'd rather go on the aggressive than the reactive. Maybe a Psych Split to just copy a 4/12 Malagos or a Silent Skeletal Drake, whatever it may be, is the best way to go. In the end, he goes with Door 3 and just takes the Apotheosis instead.
Well, I think the strongest argument against Psyche Split is the fact that he already has 2 in hand, and the strongest argument for Apotheosis is that it's the cheapest spell, and he is looking at double Nazmani guaranteed, right? Because he had 1 in hand and incited the other. So in terms of popping off himself on the next turn, the cheapest spell is definitely where you want to be at, given that Malagos is already there as a mana sink. Speaking of Malagos, though, first one to hit the board is from Lambie, going to fill up the hand with a bunch of spells. If he hits another Power Word Fortitude, he can pile on quite a bit of pressure. Doesn't find it, so he's just going to dump Devour instead. And I love that he's targeting the Malagos instead. Stack all of your health where available onto 1 minion, makes you stronger against generated Hysteria, and makes your potential Bless even more powerful.
Now for Oka Shinsuke with 2 Nazmanis ready to come down right now. Potentially a 3rd, depending on how the mana discounts work out, especially with a palm readings off the top. This could be an absolutely monumental turn for Oka Shinsuke if the spells fall in the right order.
Okay, that's a green palm reading. That is such a big deal. That skipped on all the discounts post-coin and post-shard. It was suddenly looking very scary for Oka Shinsuke, but that's a 1-cost spell discovered as well. Can't do the math quick enough. I'm not sure if Malagos will be playable. It depends if the Psyche Split can come down before the shard, and I think it can. All right, this is just steering for Oka Shinsuke. And Lambie doesn't have shard in hand. I just noticed.
No, he does. On the left.
Oh, he does? Oh, okay, okay. Sorry. Yeah, it's 0 cost. Oh. Okay. Man, sharding this, though, not quite enough. This is a board that needs Ysera Awakens in a couple turns.
Still needs a 0 mana. Okay, there we go. Power Word Fortitude found, all but guaranteed, I guess, with this many spells being drawn. And now if he wants it, I mean, it's just APM. It's the only thing holding him back right now, because he wants, even if not to use all his buff spells right now, to use all his value-generating spells. Draconic Studies, play it, discount it, draw cards, Gift of the Naru, all this goodness. He runs out of time in the end, though, but I guess that's okay. This is still a hard board to answer.
For sure. After the shard, there's going to be a 4-12 and 4 2-5s, which is still a long ways off from being able to clear for Lambie. I think he'll have to go digging with his palm reading. Gonna commit the Power Word Fortitude first. Very well spotted, because that's going to cost more after you play some spells later on. Palm reading, and if he gets Hysteria, does that do enough? Against all odds doesn't work, because all of them after silence will be even attack.
Whoa, Focused Will is not bad, but it's just that tad too expensive to go with Malagos on this turn. And after that point, this hand is just getting too expensive.
Yep. This doesn't have the mana to work with to try and fish for Bless and generate an Alec Mount and deal with all of it. But one Bless for the value trade instead of the lethal is a very heads-up call here. But Oka Shinsuke generated an additional shard. That's huge.
Oh my goodness, what are we looking at now? Okay, so you've got 10 health immediately, which could be 12 attack, 16 attack, just straight up. So I don't think you're looking at lethal here quite yet.
Oh. Yeah, the fact that he ran out of time to play one more spell and then discount the Draconic Studies is a big deal, because the difference between something like a runaway Blackwing hitting the board this turn versus next is enormous. Like Proto Drake as well.
Yeah, that's a really big one. You'd love to play that here. Even with Gift, like Plagued Proto Drake plus Gift of Luminance is huge.
I feel like he has to commit another shard just to take the Malagos down to where it can be value traded a bit more efficiently. He could commit a Bless as well to take a value trade the same way Lambie did, and just rely on the fact that, well, not the fact, but hope that the dragon he generated is better than Lambie. Oh, sorry, this is a good spot, just using the Divine Shield. It's so rare that you get to see the Divine Shield actually help you take a value trade. But it's a big deal. It means he can maintain one more shard. And yeah, I think 5-5 is a safe enough health total to leave on board where you're not scared of getting blessed out of nowhere for lethal.
Okay, well, here we go. Active Nazmani, despite all these pathetic inactive Nazmanis finally coming down. 3 pretty tempting options here, but I do agree the reduction on the palm readings is too tempting. He finds it as well, and you've got to just let it rip, right? This could get absolutely bananas. Raise Dead is really tempting, but I guess the Devour, okay, kill off one on the other side, get these minions' health as high as possible, and just fight for board the old-fashioned way.
He's just gonna play Ysera. And he can dream back the 12-11?
Or I guess Gift? Gift maybe instead of Psych Split?
I like
just
the
going
Psyche
cheap as possible. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Ysera's not playable just yet. It would be 1 mana shard. Wait, if he discounts the Renew and takes a very cheap spell from Renew, it's possible?
Could happen.
Okay.
Wow, no way.
Ysera's playable.
You have to copy something that isn't Ysera, which he's clearly unwilling to do, or he would have already played the Psych Split, so I think he's going to hold off for a turn.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, silence again to remove the Nazmani effects and Divine Shield is possible. No minions left in the deck, right?
Didn't think so.
The Alec Mount being so far at the bottom is kind of a big deal, because that's another card that would let Oka Shinsuke potentially take value trades. Looks like he's going to see what's in Studies number 2. Skeletal Dragon is enormous. It's quickly becoming a value war.
It really is, yeah.
Sliding back into the ways of Control Priest Mirrors. Ysera on either side. Oh, no.
Don't even say it. But okay, yep, Skeletal Dragon plus, I would guess the Gift of Luminance. Like, I was talking about how Plagued Proto-Drake plus Gift is really, really valuable, but given that it's going to go back up to 8 mana next turn, it's so far away that I think I do agree with this line. Just give it Divine Shield, make it tough to kill, get another dragon, win this value war.
Okay, looks like he's not gonna commit another shard here. Fair enough. He hasn't seen what the dragon is. On the other side, Nozdormu and Kuldara Drake, just expensive without any immediate upside for playing them. Not the greatest, but it's value. You'll take it.
It's an Alpha Lambi series, seeing a 4/9 Taunt Divine Shield Skeletal Dragon. That Psych Split used offensively, I guess, to copy that instead looks very tempting to me, alongside the Ysera, I guess, to bounce it back to hand and then just keep slamming down threats turn after turn.
I mean, he could use this turn to go in on board as well, play down an Emerald Drake.
True.
The Psyche Split is so cheap, and he can still play the Dream. Doesn't want to trade the 1/7 instead? Oh, okay.
He's
Blessed.
not gonna dream this. He has to.
I think so. Yeah, takes the value. Okay.
Sure.
Seems very powerful.
Guard instead. Okay, yeah, save the dream and instead take a VT here what you can. I like this deviation a lot, actually. I didn't see this, but it's very smart.
And we are at that point where, yes, you can silence this, but it's still a lot of stats on the other side. And there's no big board clear available to Okashinsuke. I don't think he's got any palm readings left. No more. Okay, one renew. That's one shot at Hysteria.
Full mirror.
Full mirror, yes, big one. 'Cause outside of that, he could. I mean, what can he do? He didn't even see the dream, so he's not able to hide behind the Plague Proto Drake and hope that's enough.
This is just like a deranged battle of librarians right now, just screaming silence back and forth between each other. Nothing else happening. And there's dragons in the background as well, I guess, just to make it cool.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
that gets dreamed. There Awakens no longer deals face damage. I made that mistake on ladder the other day.
Oh no.
It's like, oh, this is lethal. Oh my god, I just forgot. 19 burst available? Not burst, but total damage.
Damage, yeah.
And because it's not lethal, Lambi should probably just take the safest route and trade down. The 8/8 is very annoying to do so, but he could dream it instead. Okay, fills up the board with every other dragon.
Yeah, I think I like it. Like, bouncing an 8/8, they clearly don't have anything else, and it's so much tempo you're gaining. They just can't fight back against this, and you can just ignore it and then go for lethal next turn with the Nightmare, right?
Yeah, seems strong. So I think Okashinsuke's only real out here is Renew into Soul Mirror, like you said, and
Wow.
even then that doesn't deal very much at all. Okay, he has
Kuldara,
Gift.
Hero power, does nothing.
You can only do it once even still.
Oh, true. Yeah, it's only on. How is he on 9 mana? This game's been
don't
going
know.
on for like 3 hours. What the hell?
Okay, just get your Raza the Unchained Plate and then you could hero power forever.
Oh, I can imagine.
Okay, Renew.
Yeah.
Is Soul Mirror ever enough here?
There's no mana.
Yeah. Area Wave of Apathy?
Yeah, that buys you a turn.
To do what? I don't know.
I don't know. But it's that or die right now. Shadow of Devour, even played twice, as I see it, doesn't do anything. If he had a way of like generating a Bless, he could make one really big minion and hope that that gets there, but he knows the dream is in hand because Lambi series was so patient, and even then that wouldn't work.
doing the best he can to stay alive as Oka Shinsuke, but I think Lambie knows that outside of a generated Deathwing that Oka Shinsuke's just been waiting to get to 10 mana to play, Lambie should take this one. So I would not be surprised if he has Deathwing on his mind here and he's thinking, how do I beat that? And that could be the reasoning behind keeping Dream this long.
Yeah, hold on to this minion. Get the... well, sorry, Psych Split the big dragon. Get yourself a Death Rattle as well. Means that even if there is Deathwing, I don't know, he still has a Death Rattle as well and can then bounce it back to hand.
If only Oka Shinsuke could play Alusha and get Awakened here.
Oh, imagine.
Yeah, just gonna throw it down. No outs, no Deathwing there. Lambie doesn't need to worry about that last 2 dragons that he hadn't seen. And it means that Lambie is on match point now, just 1 game away from taking his first weekly win in Grandmasters, I believe, on top of 5 points that get him so much closer to playoffs than the rest of the field.
He should be on top of the world. Played very, very well, I think, that game. It was a really tough one to pass through because, like you said, you had that instinct to be keeping in mind the late game right from the early game, which is, I think, something the Lambie series did very, very well. He was very deliberate with every single card he used. He wasn't falling into that classic Miracle Priest problem of, okay, just play everything just because I can, just to discount as much as possible. He was very deliberate with every single effect, which means he had the threats afterwards to be able to get there. Whereas for Oka Shinsuke, you know, I don't want to call it so much a fault of his own. The dragons he got were worse overall. Koldara, Plague, Protodrake, and Nozdormu are not doing anything when compared to Ysera. But Lambie series just had a check for every single threat that Oka Shinsuke put down, and I think came away the well-deserved winner.
The criticism I could have for Oka Shinsuke, and even then I would not have been able to do this myself, is maybe just going a bit too slow on the turn where he played Malygos and had all the Nazmani still active, because we could have seen, you know, if the time worked out in his favor, an additional huge dragon played down that same turn. And that additional board presence potentially could have bought him the tempo that he could have been the one to pressure Lambie series first in a significant way, because it did pan out in that series that Lambie was the first to sort of get a big value trade with a huge bless on a Nazmani and then continue to push pressure from there to the point where Oka Shinsuke just never had time to play most of the dragons he generated. However, we do have to move on from that clowny mirror now to Burn Shaman for Lambie, the last remaining deck, the one that Oka Shinsuke deemed not good enough to be in the lineup, and it is faced off against the Weapon Rogue. So I'm gonna be praying for that Viper again. Let's see which hand gesture he's gonna throw out if he finds it.
Yeah, be ready to blur the camera, production, just in case he doesn't find it. But here with the rest of his hand, Novice Zapper. Are you at all interested in that just because this rogue deck is so unreactive and it's like a Flame Imp? It applies a lot of pressure at the start.
Absolutely. I think it's fine. And now with this Serpent Shrine portal, things get a bit interesting because he could go full Possessy and play that and coin out a Zapper if he likes. Just say, okay, turn 2, I'm going to be fully overloaded anyway, so front load all of the pressure.
What about just the old dub zap?
So you maintain a Bloom, and you potentially can still Wild Paw on turn 3. Sure.
Like, it often is going to put the same amount of attack on board as coin Bloom hero power afterwards. You get to do a quite likely 5 damage Serpent Shrine afterwards as well. And like you say, you hold on to the Bloom, which allows you for more powerful potential draws afterwards as well.
I like it. Lambie clearly agrees, and Oka Shinsuke's facial expression shows just how upset he is to see that. Like, what can he do? No backstabs, 1 SI7 extortion, but is that really worth using a passage to fish for? I feel like he ends up just trading the Guild Trader and being sad because he's tanking 6.
Yeah, anything you're doing here involves being sad. That's just a given at this point. But like you say, maybe if you can get yourself Cutlass exactly off of Guild Trader, you're going to have to tank 9 damage to get there, but it at least clears these pesky minions off and means you're not just taking infinite damage for the rest of the game.
Another happy guildie.
Well,
Oh,
okay, Lambie. All the hand gestures telling us everything that's going through his mind here. Okay, that's a 3-mana 3/4,
yep, you're playing that.
and it's getting portaled. And you are once again being sad.
You're being very, very sad.
Oh,
Wow.
Goes passage to find Extortion Cutlass. Okay.
Nope. Nope.
No.
Nope.
Oh my god, one more chance at extortion. Is that really better than just Viper? Oh.
Prep, okay. Oh no!
Ah,
Oh,
disaster.
absolute disaster. Lambie series honestly can't quite believe his luck, but I'm sure he's enjoying it nonetheless. Serpent Shrine face. That's what, 11 damage on this turn, just down to 13 on turn 3. This is disgusting.
And he gets a pretty good play for next turn. I was gonna say the one thing that's maybe keeping him from insta victory is the rest of his hand didn't really do much. But yeah, even if he plays 0 cards after this, it doesn't matter.
Look at this tempo. I love to see it. Oh.
Tempo King!
That's GG. You can just concede now. You're not technically dead on board, I guess. So you could dig for, I don't know, cloak into prep scabs. Okay, there we go. That's a win con.
Prep scabs!
Prep scabs. That's where we're at.
Okay, just creating a new bug in the game as well. That feels more realistic than Okashinsuke winning fairly here.
Job's done.
What a stomp.
He's played like, what, the only real card he's played has been Sinister Strike this whole game, and there it is for Lambie. He's finally done it, Gia, after season of just upsetting performances for Lambie. He's kicking things off with a bang. He is our week 1 champion, taking home those full 5 points and putting himself almost guaranteed in the playoffs and well on his way to getting that spot in the World Championships.
Amazing stuff. Lambie feels like he's had this coming for so long, but has always just come up a little bit short. He's honestly had even more consistent results in Masters Tours compared to some of the superstar players of Grandmasters. Yeah. He's always on that grind, always making sure that he's on top of the matchups. And, you know, I think today it was even cleaner than it was yesterday, and we already had few and far between criticisms yesterday. Very, very well-deserved victory, showing us that the good decks just get there consistently. And I'm just happy to see it because I think we're going to have an interview with Lambie.
I think so, yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to get a few words from Lambie series to see what, well, just how he's feeling about his victory here after an incredibly well-played week 1. It's a little unfortunate for Okashinsuke, I gotta say, that it panned out in this particular way, because with his weapon rogue, I actually imagine going into this, or sorry, having seen the first game, he would be like, great, Shaxi lost. My weapon rogue gets a free win instead of being hard targeted. But then he gets hit with double Flame Imp on turn 1, basically, in the double zapper, into the portal, into Bloom, Bolt, Sleepbreaker, whatever. Just way too much for the weapon rogue to handle. But I'm sure he's still happy, because like like Lambie series, he hasn't had the best of times in Grandmasters so far. It's obviously a lot newer for Okashinsuke, but after a very kind of 50-50 middle-of-the-road season last season, he's turning things around now with a 2nd place, 4 points on the board, himself also in a very, very good spot for the playoffs, which is going to be necessary, because aside from Okashinsuke and Possessi, the contingency of Japanese players who have just been dominating APAC for years now is looking a little bit thin after this first week of play. Alutemu 0-2, Trahezen and Glory, I think both 1-1 in terms of, 1-2 overall in terms of their game scored, losing before it got to Saturday, does mean that they are flying the flag right now, and Oka Shinsuke is going to have to maybe be coming out on top in terms of the Japanese players this season.
Yeah, you can definitely still hold his head high because I think he really made a strong impression this first week back. Like, we were talking about him as one of the players that maybe didn't have too many memorable moments or big impressions last year, but he certainly has rectified that, I believe, with some strong play here. His cautious play style being rewarded also throughout some crucial games this weekend, and just defeating the current world champion is nothing to scoff at whatsoever. But for now, the focus is 100% on Lambi Series, a player that has been one of the hardest workers in the scene for such a long time and well liked across the board. I don't know anybody who doesn't